Have you ever seen a landscape that looks like it belongs on another planet? That's the Badlands. A place so rugged, so alien, that early French-Canadian trappers called them mauvaises terres as traverser badlands to cross. But how did this incredible, almost surreal scenery come to be? Believe it or not, this entire area was once a vast, shallow sea. About 75 million years ago, during the late Cretaceous period, a huge inland sea called the Western Interior Seaway split North America in two. This sea was home to giant marine reptiles like mosasaurs and plesiosaurs. Over millions of years, as rivers flowed into this sea from the newly forming Rocky Mountains to the west, they carried tons of sediment, sand, silt, and clay that settled on the seafloor. This process continued for ages, building up layer after layer of sediment, almost like a geological lasagna. This first layer, a dark gray or black shale, is known as the Pier Shale, and it forms the very foundation of the Badlands we see today. Then, around 67 million years ago, the sea began to retreat. The land rose up, and what was once a seabed became a coastal plain, a lush, subtropical floodplain teeming with life. This was the age of dinosaurs. Imagine rhinos, three-toed horses, and saber-toothed cats roaming where giant sea creatures once swam. The environment was constantly changing, from river systems to swamps, and each change deposited new types of sediment. This created the distinct, colorful layers we can see in the Badlands hills and spires the yellows. Purples and reds are all ancient soils, or paleosols, that tell the story of a changing climate and environment millions of years ago. But depositing layers of rock is only half the story. The real magic, the sculpting of the Badlands, began much, much later and, surprisingly recently, in geological terms. For tens of millions of years. These layers of rock lay relatively flat and were protected by a cap of tougher, more resistant rock on top. It wasn't until about 500,000 years ago that the erosion engine really kicked into high gear. This is when modern rivers, like the Cheyenne, White, and Bad rivers, began to aggressively carve their way through the landscape. What's your favorite national park you've ever visited, or one you're dreaming of seeing? Let me know in the comments below. This powerful erosion is what gives the Badlands their name and their unique appearance. The rock here is incredibly soft. It's mostly clay and volcanic ash, which turns to a slippery, sticky goo when it rains. This makes it extremely susceptible to water erosion. Every single rainstorm, no matter how small, washes away a tiny piece of the Badlands. Scientists estimate that the Badlands erode at a rate of about 1 inch per year. That might not sound like much, but geologically speaking, it's incredibly fast. It means that in another 500,000 years, the Badlands as we know them today could be completely gone. Washed away into the Missouri River and eventually out to the Gulf of Mexico. So, the very same forces that create this stunning landscape are also actively destroying it. The process is a perfect example of what geologists call differential erosion. The harder layers, like sandstone or volcanic ash beds, resist erosion better than the softer clay and siltstone layers. This is why you see those amazing mushroom-shaped formations, called hoodoos, and sharp, steep-sided gullies. The softer rock erodes away from underneath the harder caprock, leaving these bizarre and beautiful sculptures behind. Wind also plays a part, sandblasting the rock faces and helping to shape the finer details. But water is the primary artist here. So, when we ask how old the Badlands are, there are really two answers. The rocks themselves are incredibly ancient, dating back as far as 75 million years. They are a time capsule, preserving a detailed fossil record of prehistoric life. The Badlands National Park has one of the richest fossil beds in the world, giving us a window into the evolution of mammals after the dinosaurs went extinct. Paleontologists have unearthed countless skeletons here, painting a picture of an ecosystem that has long since vanished. However, the landscape itself, the spires, buttes, and canyons that we see and call the Badlands is very young. The carving of this landscape only really began in the last 500,000 years. It's a geological infant. To put that in perspective, if the 75 million year history of the rocks were a 24-hour day, the erosion that formed the modern landscape would have only started in the last 10 minutes. It's this combination of ancient history and rapid, recent change that makes the Badlands so fascinating. You're literally walking on an ancient seafloor that's being actively reshaped before your very eyes. It's a place of stark contrasts, ancient but young, beautiful but harsh, created and destroyed by the very same forces. From a primeval sea to a dinosaur's stomping ground. And finally, to the eroded masterpiece we see today. The story of the Badlands is a powerful reminder of the dynamic and ever-changing nature of our planet. So next time you see a picture of those striped hills, you'll know you're not just looking at a pretty landscape, but at millions of years of history, written in stone and slowly being washed away by the rain. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey back in time, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the wonders of our world. See you next time.